Hello and welcome into the India Cricket Show here on Global Cricket Radio. I'm your host, Andrew McLean, and we're looking back at, we would have been looking back at day two's play in Cape Town, but it finished early. It was all over within 5 sessions, um, which is kind of astonishing to think that it's a test match. It's scheduled for 5 days. The ground staff, the administration had probably planned and they'd probably sold tickets and all that sort of thing. But turned out that India ended up winning to level the series before tea on the second day, which is it's very astonishing, and that a lot's got to be said about how on earth did this actually happen. It's actually a world record for the fastest Test finish of all time, and yes, Cape Town has a little bit of history of low scoring innings and that type of thing, but um, it just rankles, with those of us that love Test cricket. It doesn't really make much sense to us. But anyway, just recapping on what happened today on day two. So overnight, bearing in mind that yesterday India was all out for, South Africa was all out. Sorry, India was all out for 55. Um, South Africa ended day one on 62 for three. So at that point, you would have thought that South Africa could really kick on here, probably bat India out of the match. And at that point, Aidan Markram was on 38 and Bettingham was on 7. So when they walked onto the ground today, yes, at 62 for three, already having knocked off the first innings total by India of 55, you would have thought that South Africa might have kicked on and posted a decent score. But I'm joined by Anand Vasu, and Anand, I mean, I know you're there at Newlands, and when South Africa came out to bat today, um, I mean, and obviously, we know what happened in the end, but could you ever have conceived when South Africa came out at 62 for three that the match on day two, in the first innings, that the match could be all over so quickly?
Like we were saying yesterday, I think looking at the scorecard or the score sheet in this match is a bit uh, deceptive because this pitch was one in which no batsman could ever field in. It was the one in which a wicket was always around the corner. So at the end of the first day's play, I think it was quite clear that this game was not going beyond the second day.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Anand. I actually had like I sort of bigged that up slightly, but it was actually South Africa's second innings, wasn't it? When they were 62 for three at the start of the second day. Um, but yes, and obviously there's been some great bowling performances and all that, which we'll come to. But we did talk about it yesterday about the fact that probably it was not going to last too long. But but what happened today? Like, it's the second day of a match. Normally on a test match, you think, oh, I might do a little bit on the first day and the wicket might settle down a little bit. But that didn't seem to be the case at all.
Absolutely not. This was not a pitch that looked likely even to settle down. There was always something in it for the fast bowlers. There was variable bounce, there was movement, lateral movement off the seam, and this being Newlands, there was also a little bit of wobbly swing. You'll see that neither team used their spinners at all in the course of this test match. Of course, it lasted only 1.5 days, but Ravindra Jadeja, Keshav Maharaj didn't even bowl a ball, not even in a holding role or trying to defend or trying to control, because the fast bowlers were always in this game. So it wasn't so much scoreboard pressure or situation of the game. It was just that these conditions meant that uh, it was only a matter of time before a batsman got a ball that he absolutely could not play, no matter what his skill level was. You could be shaping up to play the right shot. You could have taken all the right decisions in that split second when you're facing the ball. But if it bounced a little bit more or if it left you late, there was nothing you could do. You were going to edge it or you were going to fend it to a fielder close by or you were going to get LBW or bowled.
Well, I don't know. I was sitting outside in my house in Bali where I live, and I had the TV on in the background, and I felt like every few minutes I had to get up from my seat to see what had happened for another dismissal, um, and I don't think that you can or any of us can criticize anyone in this match because save Aidan Markram who made 106, which we'll get to. No one could actually play on this wicket, and I guess my question for you is, because I know you were at the ground and you were watching on, um, this type of wicket, I mean, what was particularly special about this wicket? Because I know there is a bit of history in Cape Town, right? New Zealand got bowled out for about 45, about 10 years ago. It's happened to Australia. I think it's happened to India before. Um, what is it about this wicket in particular? Um, and based on what's happened in the past, that it keeps happening again. Like, is there? I mean, has the groundsman spoken about it? Has Cricket South Africa said anything about it?
Not yet. We haven't heard from the groundsman or Cricket South Africa. But the South African coach, Shukri Conrad, was pretty blunt when he spoke about the pitch in his post match assessment of how things had gone. And he said this was the kind of surface in which you needed luck rather than skill to survive as a batsman. And
Right.
that's obviously not ideal for Test cricket. And the reason why this is because there was movement off the pitch and there was variable bounce, which is why, like I said earlier, even if you played the right stroke, there was no guarantee you would get the right result because the ball could do something late and you wouldn't be able to adjust to it. It was a kind of surface in which it was only a matter of time before you got a ball that was absolutely unplayable. There were a fair few of those from a wide variety of bowlers. When a match finishes in 1.5 days, and literally every bowler has success of some kind, it tells you how difficult it was for batting. In the second innings, India's approach was uh, hell for leather, even though they were only going after 80. Jaiswal played literally a shot to every ball. He was going after, throwing his bat at everything, simply because if you tried to play normal cricket, chances are you were going to scratch around for a few balls and then be dismissed. India could do that because the target was only 80. And South Africa pushed it a bit more and somehow managed to put together 150. This could have been a whole different result altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I saw what happened with Jaiswal. I mean, he made 28 off 23 balls before he was dismissed. And then Shubman Gill was 10 off 11. Virat Kohli was 12 off 11. And then Suresh Iyer was not out, 4 off 6. But the odd one out, of course, was perhaps the guy that you expect to like slam it all around the ground. Was Rohit Sharma. He finished not out 16 off 22, so obviously he didn't get a lot of the strike. But before that, of course, Anand was, South Africa had to set some sort of target, and obviously it wasn't a big one in the end. It was only 80 or so. Um, But if you look through the South African scorecard, I mean, you've got Dean Alger 12, Tony Desori 1, Tristan Stubbs 1, David Bettingham 11, Kyle Verreynne 9, Marco Janssen 11, Maharaj 3, Rabada 2, Berger 6. But standing at the top of it was Ada Markram, 106, 106 off 103 balls. So, you know, obviously the pitch is going to come under scrutiny. It it has to be, for a test match to finish this early. But what made Markram stand out today? How did he, when everyone else from both teams couldn't score a run, he managed to get 106?
An interesting question, and it was one that was asked to Aidan Markram at his post-match press conference, and he didn't have an answer. He said you needed to have a bit of luck on this pitch. He conceded that he played and missed a lot, and also that he had catches dropped off him, which is all true. He's obviously a technically accomplished player and plays some very, very pleasing shots. I think he had a little bit more clarity of thinking, and also to an extent, he did not have anything to lose. Because if you did get out playing a shot on this pitch, there was no one who's going to ask you questions about it. So he played freely, he played with the right intent, and he made the right decisions on which balls to attack and which ones to just about survive. And when he did play and miss or get beaten, he put it behind him very quickly. I think that was perhaps the one difference between him and anyone else on this surface.
Uh, okay, so I mean, in theory, that makes a lot of sense, but nonetheless, he still had to get 106 runs, and he managed to do it off at 103 balls. I mean, where was he hitting the ball, for example? If everyone's nicking off or getting bowled, where was Markram actually getting his runs?
Well, he was excellent with the cover drive, which he kept down as much as he could. There was also some short stuff bowled at him, but he was able to like launch it well into the stands, so it didn't matter where the fielders were. Um, there's one ball that he hit of Prasidh Krishna that landed outside the ground, and they had to go and get a new ball to continue play with. He had 17 fours and 2 6s in his 106, which tells you quite a lot about how he played and missed. He protected the tail as much as he could, but when the ball was there for the hitting, he went after it. He committed to the shot and he went after it. And it was one of those days when it came off for him much more than it did for any other batsman in this test.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do my maths. So basically, he scored, as you say, 17 fours and 2 6s. So I think that's roughly 80 runs out of 106 in boundaries, which probably tells you everything, doesn't it? I mean, he obviously picked his ball, smashed it in whatever direction, and it says a lot about the situation in the game, and obviously, and he might have just been having a good day too. I mean, that also happens, right? I mean, not everyone's had a good day. Obviously, Dean Alger hasn't had a good day, and various others haven't had a good day, but he had a particularly good day. But Anand, I wanted to ask you another question. I saw on Instagram I don't know, a couple of hours ago, where Rohit Sharma was asked, and I'm sure you were listening to the comment or the question in the comment. Rohit Sharma was obviously asked about, well, what do you think about this wicket? And and as an impartial observer like I am, I'm just thinking, isn't it crazy that we're so quick to latch on to a raging Turner and Murpair or whatever it might be, or Gaul with Murali bowling or whatever, but obviously this is slightly different because the visiting teams won the match. But I thought Rohit's comment was quite interesting. He said, "Well, yeah, it was. Well, I can't remember exactly what he said, but essentially what he was saying was that yeah, it was a challenging wicket, and I hope that not everyone's now focusing on Indian pitches." Is that a good summary, or did he say something else?
Oh, I was there, and I can tell you exactly what he said. It came as a bit of a surprise to start with, but then when he explained himself, it made quite a lot of sense. He said, and I'll quote him so people know exactly what he said. He said, "I honestly don't mind playing on pitches like this,
Yes,
as long as everyone keeps their mouth shut when they come to India."
yes,
Yes,
that was
it
exactly the quote I'm talking about.
yeah. So he said yes, it's dangerous, it is challenging, but when you play Test cricket and you call it the ultimate prize and the pinnacle, then you should stand by it, and you have to come out and face it. In India, when there is turn on day one, people keep talking about there's a puff of dust, there's a puff of dust. Here, there were cracks in the pitch on day one. So it's important to stay neutral, especially for the match referees. Some match referees need to keep their eyes on how they rate pitches. This is what he said.
Yeah,
Essentially, he explained that a bit more later. What he meant was that uh, conditions are extreme in different ways, and certain pitches get bad ratings, certain pitches get a lot of criticism, but others don't. He raised the point that if a pitch can seam from the first ball and continue to seam a lot uh, for 2 3 days of a test match, then why is it that a pitch that turns from day one is an issue? You can see what's happening in world cricket at the moment with the World Test Championship. Every team wants to win every test match at home. So they're playing completely to their strengths and negating the strengths of the opposition. In India, largely medium pace or quick bowling is taken out of the equation by pitches that turn from the first day and break up quite quickly. In South Africa, the opposite is happening, in which spin is taken completely out of the spin and turn are taken, slow bowling is taken out of the equation. Neither of these teams use their spinners at all. And Ravindra Jadeja has an excellent track record. Keshav Maharaj is probably South Africa's best slow bowler of all time. Neither of them got a bowl. So, what Rohit was essentially saying was that there needs to be some uniformity in perception, in judgment, of extreme pitches of different kinds. He, as a batsman, I am 100% sure he would not have enjoyed batting on the surface. He wore a few deliveries on his body. He had bruises that he could show us just before the press conference began. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fun. He would have loved to have a slightly more balanced pitch, which allowed batsmen to also do their thing. But having one on this surface, his point was that Test cricket is meant to be difficult. It will
yeah.
be difficult in a different way when you come to India and a different way when you come to South Africa. And if you are not complaining about one, will you please not complain about the other?
Well,
That's
no,
pretty
no,
much what he.
but Anand, I mean, I can completely relate to that. Of course, as you know, I'm a New Zealander, and you know, we, we had a situation a couple of years ago when Ajaz Patel, as you know, took 10 wickets in India, and magnificent effort in one innings, emulated Anil Kumble and Jim Laker. The only third, I think that's right to say, he's the third person ever to do it. The next time he turns up in New Zealand, he doesn't even get a game. Um, and actually, that was a howler by New Zealand because we ended up losing to Bangladesh. But the point being is that a spinner in New Zealand is sort of like an afterthought. So I think maybe this case, the Cape Town pitch was perhaps extreme, but as you say, um, you know every country is going to try and play to their own strengths, right? I suppose possibly the exception is England, where you know it doesn't really work exactly that way, but I know in New Zealand, for example, I mean, Pakistan's been there, Sri Lanka's been there, India's been there. I mean, it's a hard play. Even Australia, for example, and they'll find it hard later. Well, perhaps not this year because they're playing so late in the season, but it's not the easiest place to play because we prepare our wickets in a particular way. But anyway, so the match is over. India won, chasing down 80 odd, and they got there in the end without losing too many wickets. But I was just thinking, Anand. Anand. Yeah, Anand. The the next sort of challenge for India, right, is England. And I think it starts on the 25th of January, and it's a 5-test series. And I've got a very good mate of mine, Pushkar Singh, who's a cricket aficionado, and he said to me the other day, I really hope they play true pitches, and I think what he meant by that was bit of bounce, bit of carry, doesn't spin too much early on. And I said to him, well, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that if you're playing England? Just why would you do that? I mean, are you going to get like Bumrah, Shami, Siraj to win you the series? I'm suspicious. I mean, I suspect that Ravichandran Ashwin will come in for that series. I suspect he'll play all 5 matches, and obviously Ravindra Jadeja will do the same. So this whole point that Rohit makes is that, well, we'll soon see, what India's approach to is, to what it might be, and so I'm interested to know what your opinion is on how India will, prepare for that series against England over 5 tests.
It's very clear what the approach will be, and I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's minds. In India, you don't need to go to a curator or a groundsman and tell him that you want to produce a turning track, especially against a team such as England, because India will play Ashwin, India will play Jadeja, and India will play Akshar Patel. There will be 3 spinners playing every one of these test matches. If one of these is unfit, somebody else will come in for them, but there will be 3 spinners. You can be absolutely sure of that. And it will turn from the first day. Uh, they're going to be very challenging pitches, and they're challenging for India's batsmen as well. If you look at India's batsmen's averages over the last 2 or 3 years at home, you look at their stats in terms of how many have made big hundreds. You look at the number of times India has actually made big totals even at home, and you'll see that it just doesn't happen anymore. You play on surfaces that are completely result oriented and result oriented in the favor of the home team. So this, unfortunately, making pitches is not an exact science. Curators will want a bit of bounce, a lot of turn, and wear and tear as quickly as possible. But you can't always achieve this result because the soil varies from venue to venue, atmospheric conditions vary from venue to venue, and you can get unseasonal rain now in any part of the world at any time. It's not like as predictable as, say, 20 years ago when you knew when the monsoon would come, when it would be the dry season. Now you get cyclones, you get rains, you get
Yeah,
droughts, you get
true.
all kinds of things because weather patterns around the world have changed. So sometimes curators will get it wrong. They will go a little too far in how dry they make the pitches, or they will go not far enough, and then you get end up with a batting beauty rather than something that turns. You just get something that has low bounce and nothing in it for any of the bowlers. So this will happen at some stage, but the aim from the Indian cricket ecosystem, let's say from the team think tank to the curators to the BCCI to everyone, is going to be that spin it to win it. They're
Of
going to have
course.
that will challenge visiting batsmen. So
Yeah,
I
and,
don't
and,
think you're going to
and
get. I don't think you're going to see any true pitches. I don't think you're going to see any tracks that have been deliberately prepared in such a way that you get big hundreds either from the home team or
Yeah.
from visiting batsmen.
And of course you won't. I mean, and that's that. I mean, sorry, I gave a massive lead into that, but that was kind of my point, right? Is that you've got a five-test series against England. There is absolutely no way you're going to create a seamer-friendly wicket, and even if that's even possible to do, it's never going to happen. And as you say, obviously Ravi Chandran will come in, and Axar Patel will come in, or if it's not him, it'll be someone else. And they will bowl the majority of the overs over a five-test series. But I have one last question for you before we finish, Anand. Um, so much has been made, mainly by the press actually, but not necessarily by the players. But England has this uber aggressive style of play. How do you think that? Or I suppose there's two things. Do you think that they'll adopt the same style like from ball one? Um, in India, and I forget which grounds got the first game, but if they do you think it's going to be successful?
I think their only chance of success is adopting that uber aggressive approach, baseball, as it's been called around the world. Because when you have conditions where there's variable bounce, where there's sharp turn, where some balls are keeping low, some balls are bouncing more, and you have very skillful slow bowlers. Let's not forget that Ashwin has nearly 500 test wickets. Jadeja is all matches Ashwin in terms of strike rate and economy in Test match cricket in Indian conditions. Akshar Patel raced to 50 wickets in the few chances that he got. So you have three spinners who are tailor made for exploiting conditions like this. So if you
But
try
but
to
but
play,
but Anand, this is sort of my question, right? So if you're Ollie Pope, for example, and let's say Crawley nicks off early or Duckett gets out early, and we know for a fact that Ashwin's not going to be fifth change. He's probably going to be first change. Do you think Ollie Pope is just going to take Ashwin on and say, right, I'm going to smash you out of the attack? Because I actually can't see that happening. That's just my personal opinion.
I think you'll find that that's exactly what will happen, because if you try to stay at the crease and survive, there's absolutely no chance. You might play 20 balls for 5 runs before you get out. You may as well spend those 20 balls trying to be aggressive, and you might get 15 runs instead. Because no one's going to bat out an entire day. No one's going to bat 2 sessions. So while you're at the crease, if you at least get some runs, you take the game forward and you put some pressure on the opposition. Survival is just not a thing anymore. Batsmen don't have the patience that they used to, perhaps 10 years ago, 15 years ago, with the amount of T20 cricket being played, and the pitches are much, much more extreme. So I don't think trying to play normal cricket as a batsman is a viable option on these turning tracks in India against these spinners. You may as well go as hard as you can, and if it comes off in one test out of five, you could stun India, because when the conditions are this extreme, it also becomes a bit of a lottery even for the home team. One bad session can change a game. One good session can get you across the line.
Yeah, I would just add to that though that I think Joe Root will probably end up getting the most runs in the series because he can, he's a high quality player. He can bat in all conditions. He manages always to score relatively quickly. He doesn't need to get into this mindset. I've got to just whack it all over the place. Um, and I think if England's going to win this series, I think so much depends on Joe Root because I don't think the other players are good enough. Basically, I mean Ben Stokes, as we know, can probably win a game or two, but there's a massive question mark around whether he's even going to be fit or not. But anyway, that's way in the future. So Anand, as an Indian, congratulations on India winning this second Test match in Cape Town. I hope you've had a very pleasant time in South Africa, and thank you very much for being part of this broadcast. We were imagining it was going to run for 5 days, but we've got to two. But hopefully we'll do some more of this the India Cricket Show in the future, and I'd love to have you to be part of it again.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me. And there's plenty of cricket India's playing, so it'll be good to be back.
All right, so from me and Anand here on the India Cricket Show on Global Cricket Radio, we're signing off from today, and we'll catch you again